In this week's GibbsCAM video, we're going to show you some unique toolpaths within Gibbs that maybe some are using, maybe not. The first one is volume mill, but volume mill solids. Now you can see I have a cavity here, like a little mold cavity, 3D surfacing cavity here. And of course the idea between volume mill is you want to remove as much material as possible using as much of the flutes as you can. Now ideally we want to end up with, so if I put this at 100 thou, we'll let that run, and if I go to the operation sim, run this, you can see this is about the steps that I would like. Nice 100 thou steps here for the ball end mill to come in and start finishing it. But the thing with doing it that way is it wears the end of your end mill out, the first 100 thou of your end mill, and so your tool life it decreases quite a bit. So the idea between volume mill is to use as much flutes as possible without leaving large steps. Now if I change this to say 1/2 inch, run this again, and if I run the rendering, you're going to see it does a nice 1/2 inch step there, but it leaves an unbelievably large step here for finishing, as you can see there. So ideally that's not quite what we want. So there's a unique feature in volume mill that maybe you are aware, maybe you're not aware. But this is what I want to do, is 1/2 inch steps. Then I click on the solids tab and I click on wall cleanup, and I'm telling Gibbs that I want 100 thou wall. So what it'll do is take a 1/2 inch step as much as it can to clean it out. Then it'll start doing the 100 thou walls, so I don't have such a large step there. So if I redo this, you'll see the new toolpath now using that technique. So let me do the op sim, and you can see it went to the 1/2 inch depth as much as it could using most of the flutes. Now it comes back and just cleans up the areas to leave 100 thou steps on my part. So now we're ready to do the ball end mill. So the next technique, we're going to use the 5-axis, but we're going to use it in a 3-axis mode. So my tool axis control will be 3-axis, just like a 3-axis vertical mill. But what I want to use is the Geodesic Machining. So what that'll do is it'll go from, say, the outside to the inside, or inside outside. You have a number of choices here to do that. But let's run the rendering on that so you can see what that's doing. So we're going to rough out again with the 1/2 inch end mill, leaving the 100 thou steps. Then we'll come back in with the ball end mill, 1/2 inch ball end mill, and we'll start cleaning that up. Now we're starting from the outside and going in, as you can see. Very nice toolpath. I have the steps pretty large, so that's why you're seeing this as well as the rendering. I have a little bit coarse, so it doesn't take up all my computing time while recording. So that is one toolpath there. The next one is using also the 5-axis module. Let's open up that. On the surface paths, you're going to see Geodesic Machining. You can see all the different options there using the Geodesic. And tool center mode, most of these, leaving most of these default here. You can see from, you can go center away, from outside to center, etc. You have a lot of different choices there. Of course, your max step. Tool axis control again, 3-axis. Normally I always have gouge check on. And link for most things I have use lead in and use lead out. So if we run this toolpath, we'll do the 1/2 inch end mill again. And this time we're kind of doing in the middle and going to the inside and outside at the same time. This also cleans up very well. Looks very good. So the next toolpath, we're going to use the advanced 3D. So I'll bring this up. So for those that don't have the 5-axis module, you can still do it with the advanced 3D. This time I chose constant step over, and of course fill in your blanks and everything else. Most of these you could leave default. Usually I put minimal vertical, and the boundary. Here we're just going to stay on the boundary and contact area only. Then we'll redo this. Now we have our toolpath. So let's run that. So we'll just do the volume mill and this toolpath. So the volume mill first. Then we'll come back and we're doing the inside to the outside. So what's nice about this versus, say, lace cutting, which will leave larger steps 90 degrees from the toolpath. This way it goes clear around the part. Another one you can do, we'll run the rendering again. Again, when using the advanced 3D, this time I'm telling it to go past the part by about 20 thou, contact areas only, and so it doesn't want to start cutting the top surface here. I actually said the top surface is below, the surface is below by 2/10,000ths here. So it's going to ignore the rest of this here and just cut the cavity. So if we run the sim on here, again we'll do the volume mill. Then again we're starting on the inside, going to the outside. So you're cutting more with the outside of the ball end mill rather than the tip so much. And we're going past the boundaries by about 20 thou. So if you want to kind of clean up the edges here, that's a good toolpath to use. You can see I went past the boundary just a little bit. It's a little jagged here because I have some pretty coarse settings on here, but you get the idea. The next one is going to be, of course, advanced 3D machining as well. You can see the toolpath here. As I said, 0. You can see it goes past there. So let's just render this so you can see it. But you can see it went past there, a little hard to see, but you can see the toolpath went past the boundary there because we said there is the surface stock is actually 0. And so it went past the boundary to get the whole area there. So probably not ideally what you want. Now the last one we're going to show you is using geometry to make a boundary around the part. So you can see I have geometry selected here. Here's my geometry around the outside of the part. Of course you can enlarge this if you want, do an offset if you want to go a little bit farther, but I just have it right on the edge there. So let's bring this up. And just have a 30 thou step over here on my boundary. You can see since I selected this, it automatically jumps to selected curves, and I just have it set to on. So let's run the rendering on that. This time we're going to the outside in. But very nice toolpaths for molds and such. The next video we'll be showing on the next YouTube video will be with islands, so stay tuned for that. Thank you for watching.